excited to break down. I am so excited for this conference because I think it's going to be the most fun out of all the conferences. They may not have the top line talent of the SEC per se, but top to bottom, the parity in this conference is going to make it awesome. Like, this is hopefully going to fill the hole that is left by the demise of the Pac-12, because we all know how much I love Pac-12 football, how good we were at betting Pac-12 football. I mean, just lasered in there. I'm hoping this conference is going to be that. I think it will be. There are a lot of fun offenses in there. There's some question marks on defense. It is the conference of absolute chaos, none other than the Big 12. This conference, there are so many teams that I'm so excited to talk about in here. There are so many dynamic offenses. There's going to be a relative theme here, though, on the defensive side of football for a lot of these teams. Some big question marks, offense line, things like that. But we're going to get into it, and we're starting right off the rip with a team that I am incredibly interested to watch because I think their ceiling is really high. But there are some obvious concerns, and I am talking about UCF. Gus Malzahn is taking over play calling this season. You've got OC Tim Harris and DC Ted Roof. Over under sitting about 7.5. This team is absolutely fascinating because of the offensive ability here. This could be one of the more dynamic football teams in the conference, in the country, because of what they offer offensively with the Gus Malzahn system. What am I talking about? We got KJ Jefferson coming in from Arkansas to help spearhead this Gus Malzahn offense. I think you're hoping that he's sort of like a Dollar Tree Cam Newton. I think that's a very fair expectation here. And you're pairing him with a running back room that is easily one of the best. I think it is the best in the country. You have RJ Harvey, one of the best backs in the country, 1,400 yards last season, 6.3 yards per carry, 16 touchdowns, massive play ability and threat. You're pairing him with Penny Boone, who's really good, fantastic after contact, 3.4 yards after contact. Absolutely just a power back there. You got Johnny Richardson in the rings, almost 6.6 yards per carry as RJ's backup. Then you're bringing in Miles Montgomery from UC, who, doesn't have the larger sample size, but is pretty good with the ball in his hands. You add that extra man advantage in the box with KJ Jefferson, a big, gets downhill on you quick quarterback. The concerns are the injury part, though. KJ is a bit injury prone here, but if he can stay healthy and you can kind of get him back to that 22 version of him. I mean, in 22, there was no real issues from a passing game. Arkansas, when he is surrounded with talent, like he's going to be surrounded here at UC, if he can stay healthy and he can return to that 2022 form, I mean, there's no part of the field he couldn't hit. He was absolutely dynamic and somebody that you're like, this could be a really bright future. Arkansas failed to kind of put some pieces around him, unfortunately, and health became an issue. And that's the concern here with UCF long-term. I'll kind of circle back to that in a little bit, but that's a really dynamic, just rushing offense right off the rip. Then you look at the wide receiver tight end room. I think they're hoping that Kobe Hudson becomes the guy in that room. You have Xavier Townsend return. Kobe Jones was productive at Ohio. Johnson from Auburn, is a nice little piece, plus Aggie Hall. He's an interesting one. I think he's sort of the wild card in the group because if he can stay out of trouble, there is talent that he displays on the field. His problems have always been off the field. But Hall could be a nice little extra piece. The offensive line is a really interesting part for UCF this season because they have a good problem, but it's a problem they're going to have to figure out. And that is what this rotation is going to look like because they have a really good mix of veterans and young, high upside guys, which is nice because you have depth. This is a collision sport. You need depth at places like the offensive line, but figuring out that rotation early in the season is going to be really crucial to their overall success. Amari Knight, really solid. Kittle looking good at center. The guards are a nice piece. Once again, it's, who's going to play at right tackle, what the rotation might look like. They're going to have fall camp to figure that out. It's going to be the interesting part to sort of see. I think from an offensive standpoint, that's what you're really honing in on. What are the reports looking like for that offensive line? What does that rotation potentially look like? Because when you look at the weapons, the running back room, the wide receiver room, the quarterback room, as long as they have some injury luck here and KJ can stay healthy, this team is going to be incredibly dynamic offensively and a ton of fun to watch. Defensively is where the question marks really start because they couldn't stop a lick on the ground. And that's a problem. It's sort of, It's tough to gauge the secondary from last season because you're wondering, did they just not throw on them all that much because the defense couldn't stop anything from a rushing standpoint? Or was it actually really good? They believe the strength is in the secondary. Byron's the threat. He comes in from UC and was really productive at safety. Linebacker is going to be an interesting question. I want to see how that develops through camp. The D line is the area that they have to get settled. And they tried to address it this offseason. They could not win any battles in the trenches last year on the defensive line side. Lee Hunter at nose has to step up. He provides some really good beef inside. He's a big guy, stocky guy. He's got to be better. And I think Lawrence coming off the edge has got to prove to be strong. If this defense, it doesn't have to be world class. It doesn't have to be elite. It doesn't even have to be necessarily the top of the top in the Big 12. I think if they can just get average, slightly below average production from this defense, that's going to be good enough with what they present offensively. Now, from a betting standpoint, this is a team. The Big 12 is interesting because you're going to have a lot of opportunities to take shots because there's about 8 teams that can probably win the Big 12 this season, which makes for really interesting betting standpoint. UCF's a team where, because you have that concern at quarterback around injury health, if you wanted to play something like an under on the win total to give you some downside protection in case that injury happens, but if that injury doesn't happen and they get good injury luck, this is a team that will very likely be in competition for the Big 12 championship and is a team that's probably worth potentially taking a shot on that upside. So you're getting yourself kind of under, protecting your underside with the under on the win total, but looking at the upside of a team that gets some injury luck, this dynamic Gus Malzahn offense that I think is going to really take well with the weapons they have because they will have some speed advantages. They will have some size advantages. They have that extra man in the box advantage with KJ. If he can stay healthy and return to that 2022 form passing the ball, this offense is going to light it up. And so you get that upside with the Big 12 championship kind of bet. That's how I would attack a team like a UCF. They're going to be dynamic to watch. I cannot wait to watch them this season. They're probably my most intriguing team, I think. They're a team that I had almost ranked in my top 25. The issues on defense, though, was what sort of prevented them from sneaking into my preseason top 25. But I can't say it enough. I'm gushing over this offense. It is going to be a lot of fun, and they are going to absolutely get on people offensively.